What's up, everyone? This is Xavier, your host, and welcome to the 210 Stockyard.
You guys are waiting on it, and here it is. So as you know, the UFL conducted its dispersal draft on Friday, January the 5th, and unfortunately, we had to wait until Monday, January the 8th, for them to release the official results of the draft. And as excited as I was to see the results and talk about them, I was left asking myself one question. Were the Brahmas snubbed in the dispersal draft? Now, the reason I ask is because of the Arlington Renegades. Yeah, the same team that won the 2023 XFL Championship. Well, apparently, Arlington was awarded with the number 1 pick in the dispersal draft, and they, to no surprise, selected Lindsey Scott Jr., quarterback out of University of Incarnate Word. This was the guy that I was hoping the Brahmas were going to select based on our needs. Yes, we need an O-line, some more offensive weapons, but ultimately, we struggled at quarterback. Lindsey Scott, in my opinion, was going to be the solution. So how did Arlington end up with the number 1 pick after winning the championship? I honestly don't know, but according to this guy, James Larson, which by the way is one of the only analysts that seems to have accurate information, according to him and his sources, the draft was going to be conducted by record, which meant that San Antonio, for the XFL side, was supposed to have the first round pick. And I've seen some posts or some comments about there was an alleged trade between the Brahmas and Arlington, which is why Arlington ended up with the Brahmas first round pick. But I can't find any information on that. So if anybody out there that's listening or watching this, if you guys know something, please let me know, because I could not see any details or find any details regarding this alleged trade. So from the looks of it, what I can piece together, this is how the rounds went. Arlington ended up with the number 1 pick, followed by the St. Louis Battlehawks, which is another mystery to me. I don't know how these two teams with better records ended up picking or drafting before the Brahmas did, but alas, it appears as though the Brahmas may have had the 3rd pick, or actually they may have had to wait until the 2nd round to pick, and then if this is correct, DC had the 4th pick. So were they snubbed? To me, it kind of seems like it, unless my information is wrong, and if I'm wrong, so be it, wouldn't be the first time. I just really wish the UFL was a little more transparent on these things. But that's the current problem with the league, and honestly, the XFL did a lot of this last year too. I didn't follow a lot of the USFL, so I'm not sure how transparent their communications were. But because they're so vague, especially when it comes to drafts, I have to rely on things like this. Seeing a tweet announcing the first round pick and where he went. And it wasn't just the first round pick, there was other tweets as well, like the Brahmas' first 2 initial picks, and then the remainder of random picks that we got throughout the draft. So unfortunately, guys, this is why some of my information may not be correct, because I'm forced to rely on Twitter, or what is it called now? X, is my main resource for up-to-date information regarding the UFL, teams, draft picks, etc. It would be nice if the UFL worked on this and perfected this, or at least improvised on this, or improved on this by Phase 3, January 15th, for the final dispersal. And you don't even have to go live or give me a play-by-play of each and every pick. How about round by round? Let's do that. Send out a tweet of the round 1 results and then round 2 and so on and so on. You please try to work on that, UFL. But on to the results. So as you know, Coach Hines Ward was released from the Brahmas organization due to a contract dispute regarding his pay, which now means we have Wade Phillips, the legendary Wade Phillips, as our head coach. He was Houston's former coach. Now he's with the Brahmas. And like you, I was wondering, what is he going to do with the draft? What is his strategy? Who are we going to get? And again, it's my opinion that our most immediate need was in the quarterback position. We previously had Jawan Pass, who we let go, who didn't work out. We also had Reese Sinet, who only played, a game and a half before getting injured, and he went out. On the official roster, we still have Ben Kurt listed as a quarterback, but I'm not sure if they know that he officially announced his retirement back in August via his Twitter once again, although I would not mind if he came out of retirement. But assuming he doesn't, that's going to leave us with Matthew McKay out of Elon College. I don't want to sound like an ass about this, but I never heard of him. I've never even heard of Elon. They're the Phoenixes. I've never heard of his conference. Did go undrafted. There was very limited information on him, so I really couldn't deep dive and find a whole lot, other than the fact that he signed a letter of intent with San Antonio back in October. He made the final roster list as one of the protected players, and it looks like the backup quarterback to none other than Jack Ice Cream Cone. Now, Jack Cone wasn't the best quarterback. He struggled a lot, and I can give him the benefit of the doubt, being that It was a whole new league, a whole new team, not the best O-line, a brand new coach in Hines Ward. He struggled the majority of the season, showed some flashes of greatness in the final 2 games. Is he coming back? I don't know, I'm not sure. But for now, he is still listed on the roster as one of our protected players. And if he stays, I'm assuming he's QB1. But onward to the results. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 20 different picks that we got out of this dispersal draft. Out of the 20 picks that we had, 18 of the players selected came from Houston. No surprise with Wade Phillips now as our head coach. I mean, I knew he was going to take some of his favorite players with him, but Jesus, 18. Okay, let's see what we got. We got 1 from Seattle, 1 from Orlando. We picked none from Vegas, which I'm not surprised. They weren't that great. But here we go. So our first 2 picks, and again, this was via a la Twitter. I don't know who came first. I'm going to assume it was the guy on the right, Alex Moyet, and I think I'm saying that right. And by the way, I'm going to butcher a lot of names, so bear with me. But Alex was named to the XFL offensive team. He was the center for the Houston Roughnecks. The Brahmas did need a lot of help on the O-line, and they just got it with this guy here. Next, on the right, Cody Latimer. If you guys were watching in the season, I don't have to tell you how dynamic Cody Latimer is. He's a tight end, but ranked number 3 in receiving yards when paired or matched up with wideouts. So in the XFL, he had the 3rd most receiving yards. And this guy is a great offensive weapon, great pickup. I love these 2 pickups. Next up, and I'm going to go in alphabetical order for the remainder of the picks. But next up we have Brycen Alleyne. He was the running back with Houston. He was actually their 3rd leading rusher behind Max Borghi and the quarterback Cole McDonald. He finished the season with 193 rushing yards, 76 receiving yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. Not a bad addition to the team. Let's see if we keep him. Next up we have, and let's see if I can say this. Or, I don't know, you guys can tell me how it's pronounced, but I'm going to say Dieuly Aristilde. Yeah, I told you I was going to butcher it. But he is a wide receiver. Now, this guy moved around a lot in college. He started at Eastern Michigan. He was there for 2 seasons where he tallied 571 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. He later then transferred to Alabama A&M for 1 year, and he only collected 51 receiving yards. I'm not sure if he was injured or just didn't produce. But after 1 season there, he transferred to Bethel, where he finished out that season with 768 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. He was an undrafted free agent and signed a letter of intent with Houston back in October 21st of 2023. Next up, a very solid pickup in Houston's Tavante Beckett. He was Houston's number 1 linebacker on the team. He finished the season with 34 solo tackles, 29 assisted tackles, 2 interceptions, 1 forced fumble recovery, and 1 defensive touchdown. This guy is disruptive and was a very pivotal part of Houston's defense. I am so happy that we got him. Can't complain about this pick. And believe it or not, next up was his college teammate, Omari Cobb, also a linebacker. While at Marshall, he was awarded the team defensive MVP honors along with Tavante Beckett, by the way. He also received a Conference USA second team all-conference selection. His senior year there, he started in all 13 games at linebacker. He finished 2nd on the team with 114 tackles, had 7.5 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 1 interception, 2 pass breakups, and 1 forced fumble. He was also an undrafted free agent, but did spend time with the Chiefs and Giants. He signed his letter of intent to Houston on October 20th, 2023. I'm happy with this pickup. I like seeing teammates come back together to play professionally. I like seeing that chemistry. I like knowing that they have that chemistry. Definitely a good pickup for the Brahmas. Next up we have, and I'm not even going to try to say that last name, Rashaad. I'm going to say Coward, because if I call him Coward, I don't want to get beat up. But Rashaad Coward, I'm sorry, that's just funny. Like, how are you going to have the last name Coward? And this dude is 6'5", 320 plus pounds. That's a big guy to have that last name. So I'm hoping it's actually pronounced a different way. Played college ball at Old Dominion. A bit of a journeyman. He had some time with the Bears. He had 2 different stints with the Steelers. Played with the Jaguars, Falcons, Cardinals, and Texans. He signed his letter of intent with Houston not too long ago. It was actually December 8th, 2023. Now, the thing about him, he plays both ways. He can be utilized either on the offensive line or the defensive line. So either way, he's moving people around. Again, 6'5", 320 plus pounds. This guy is a big mama jamma. And if you thought he was big, next up, Jalen Dalton, another defensive tackle. He played at North Carolina. Now, in high school, he came out his senior year ranked the 4th best defensive end in the country. Fortunately, didn't really do too much with it. Again, he was another undrafted free agent. He did, though, spend time with the Bears, Saints, Falcons, and Panthers. Most of those, I believe, were practice squads. He signed his letter of intent with Seattle back in October of 2023. And this guy, believe it or not, is bigger than the last guy. He's 6'6", 300 plus pounds. Weiland was our lone pickup from the Sea Dragons. Next up, Austin Edwards, defensive tackle. This guy's got some pretty good accolades coming out of college. He was a first-team All-American in D2. He also won the Gene Upshaw Award, which is the best D2 defensive lineman. He got that in 2019 with the Ferris Bulldogs. He was undrafted, but did spend some time with both the Falcons and Chiefs. He signed with Houston actually back in November of 2022, but didn't play with them. But he is, again, another big individual standing 6'5", 270 pounds. So I do like where Coach Wade Phillips is going with this. I like the addition of all these very large human beings. Next up, we have Jordan Mosley, DB from Maryland. He's not as big as the other guys, 6'1", a little over 200 pounds. In 2021, he was the Pro Football Focus second team All-Big Ten. He did play with the Roughnecks, a bit of a contributor there too. He played in all 10 games, had 23 solo tackles, 16 assisted tackles, and 1 forced fumble. So another former Roughneck now added to the Brahmas. Moving on, we have Marvin Pierre, linebacker out of Kent State. Now, there isn't a lot of information on him online. This is one of the players that I actually got to look at and see some of his film. He did play with the Cardinals and the Packers. He was selected by Houston in 2023, but he did not play. I don't know if he just was injured or opted out. But all I can say is watch film on this, guys. If you get a chance, go ahead and Google or YouTube some of his highlights. Holy shit. This guy is explosive. Honestly reminds me or is reminiscent of Micah Parsons. Now, I'm not saying he's Micah or as good as him. Just his style of play is very reminiscent. He's an inside linebacker, very explosive, very disruptive. Matter of fact, Marvin Pierre is a problem or will be a problem for other offensive lines. This guy's going to come after you, and he's not going to stop coming after you. Trust me, go look at his film. He's 6'1", 220 pounds. Very solid inside linebacker. Next up, Wyatt Ray, edge rusher. He played his college ball at Boston College. Went undrafted, but another journeyman here. He spent some time with the Browns, the Texans, the Bills, the Jets, the Titans, the Jaguars, the Broncos, and the Bengals. Most of his time with these teams were all practice squad, but he definitely got some development. He signed his LOI with Houston back in October, and he's 6'3", 250 pounds. Great size for an edge rusher. And now for another pick that I'm honestly hyped about, Jaylen Samuels. Now, he's listed as a running back and primarily used as a running back, but I'm just going to say he's an athlete. In college and throughout most of his career, he's utilized or was utilized as a running back, fullback, wide receiver, and tight end. Played for North Carolina State, has some pretty good accolades there too. In 2016, he was the Independence Bowl MVP. In 2018, he was named to the first team All-ACC, All-Purpose Player. And he was also, that same year, named the All-Associated Press third team for his role as a tight end. I mean, damn, he's an all-purpose player on the first team, still produced enough to be named the Associated Press third team. Not bad. He spent time with the Steelers, Cardinals, and Texans. Signed his letter of intent with Houston back in December as well. He stands 6 foot even at 225 pounds. Really can't wait to see how we utilize this guy come game days. Next up, we have Justin Smith, wide receiver. He did play for the Houston Roughnecks. He was their number 6 wideout. He played a total of 9 games, started in 5. And for the season, he racked up 16 receptions for 238 yards and a touchdown. So not great stats, but he definitely was a contributor. Now, what I like about him is this. So far, he's been the most vocal online about, I guess, coming to the Brahmas. Of course, he's proud that he's from Houston. I like that he sent out this tweet showing how many Roughnecks or former Roughneck players were selected. And if you look there at the bottom, I like his comment where he says, "Let's bring a ring to the Alamo City." So hell yeah, I love his enthusiasm. Horns forward, baby. Now we're looking at Teez Tabor, defensive back. He played at Florida State Gators. He was a first-team All-SEC in both his sophomore and junior year while at Florida. He ended up becoming a second-round pick for the Lions. Later in his career, he spent some time with the Niners, the Bears, the Falcons, Seahawks, and Colts. He very recently signed his letter of intent with Houston back on December of last year, so not that long ago. Next up, we have Kevin Toliver, another defensive back out of LSU. He spent time with the Bears, Broncos, Ravens, and Colts. I wasn't able to find a whole lot of information on him, but then again, I didn't deep dive too much, being that there was 20 players to research. He, though, signed his letter of intent with Houston back in October. He's 6'2", 192 pounds. But once again, you can see we went heavy on the defense. To include the next pick, Taron Vincent, defensive tackle out of Ohio State. This guy was actually a 5-star recruit in high school. I believe he got injured his freshman year. He did stay with Ohio State. I want to say he was undrafted. I didn't find any information on him regarding if he spent time with any NFL teams, but he signed his letter of intent with Houston on December 12th. He's 6'1", 305 pounds, so that's a big dude. I mean, just look at the fear in the eyes of this guy, number 3 from Rutgers, as he's being chased down by him. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be chased by him either. Next up, this was a surprise to me when I saw his name and I did the research on him. Kade Warner, wide receiver, spent time with Tampa Bay's practice squad, though not a lot. Recently signed his letter of intent with Houston back in December 8th. He's 6'1", 203 pounds. What's interesting about him, if you guys didn't know, Kade is the son of legendary Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner. That's right, guys. Kurt Warner's son is going to be playing for the San Antonio Brahmas. Now, once I realized that this was his son, I kind of went into a deep dive in this. I wanted to know why he didn't get much notoriety, why he isn't in the NFL. Well, let's take a quick look. So Kade was an athlete in high school. He did play multiple sports. He played football, basketball, track, lacrosse. He made the high school all-state team twice while in high school. His senior year, he racked up 83 receptions, totaling 1,062 yards and 14 touchdowns. And now, despite all of that, if you can believe it, he didn't receive a single offer or scholarship to play in college. I was so shocked to find out that the son of a Super Bowl champion Hall of Famer didn't receive not one scholarship. He eventually walks on to Nebraska. Unfortunately, his time at Nebraska was injury riddled, so he didn't rack up too many stats whilst in Nebraska, which ultimately led him to transfer to K-State, where he stayed and finished out his career. He went undrafted, but did sign with Tampa Bay's practice squad in April of 2023, and then was released a few months later in August. He signed a letter of intent again in December with Houston. And again, I'm just so amazed that no one's talking about this guy. I hope he makes it, out of training camp. I hope he sticks with the team, because it'd be kind of cool to see Kurt Warner at the games as well. I think it's very interesting that he almost has a similar story to his dad as far as always being overlooked, always having to fight for his position. I really hope that he gets his chance in the XFL, and I do hope we see him excel and succeed. And now for our last pick, Mr. Nate, I believe it's pronounced Weiland. I could be wrong, but Nate Weiland, linebacker. He played his college ball in Grandview, Iowa. Went undrafted, but did sign with the Patriots practice squad for a while. He was actually on Houston's team last year, although he only got to play in 2 games before being injured and placed on the injured reserve list. So hopefully he comes back stronger, ready to play, ready to prove himself. Can't wait to see this guy bounce back. So in total, here's what the dispersal draft looked like, at least on the XFL side. Orlando had 3 guys taken, Vegas had 7, Seattle 14, and Houston was pretty much gutted with 32 players being taken in the dispersal draft, although pretty much half of that, 18 players, went to the Brahmas. Maybe we should just call them the Brahma-Necks. What do you guys think? I really think we might have to change the name up, being that we have Wade Phillips and half of our team's going to be previous Houston Roughnecks, which brings me to this tweet that I saw and I really kind of like. And this person just said, since they didn't keep the real Roughnecks, I'm switching to the Brahmas. And honestly, I like that. I do hope that more of Houston's fans do kind of migrate over to our side. Maybe it's a good thing that we have Wade Phillips in half of Houston's teams, because now we're kind of not just absorbing their staff and players. Now we're also absorbing their fan base, which only helps, to increase ours. I really want to see that dome packed and rowdy, guys. Super excited for the future. Now, if you want to see the rest of the Brahmas roster, here it is. You guys can pause it and look it over. Again, you'll see number 1 up there is Kurt Benkert. I still don't know why he's listed with the team because, again, he didn't announce that he retired. But as you can see, we have 62 out of the 75 slots filled, which means we have 13 more players, up to 13 more players to select in the final dispersal draft coming up on the 15th. And once that's complete, I will be doing another video on those players. And if you took time to look at that list, you might have noticed or recognized a few names, so I'm just going to give one last shout out, one last sidebar before I let you guys go. On our current active roster, we've got some local talent. We have Marcus Cooper, who is a running back at Incarnate Word here in San Antonio. Definitely happy to see some local talent here on the team. We also got Micah Smith, who was a DB also at Incarnate Word. And don't forget, they won their championship recently for their conference or their division. So there's some pretty good talent, some championship talent coming to the team, along with 2 players from UTSA who were back-to-back Conference USA champions. We have Trevor Harmonson and Corey Mayfield Jr., both defensive ends. Again, both great additions and pickups. All 4 of these guys played here locally in San Antonio, so I'm pretty happy, pretty excited to see that we got some local talent on the Brahmas roster. Definitely getting that hype train building for this upcoming season. And there you have it. That was a quick breakdown of Phase 2 Dispersal Draft selections. I wanted to do more of a deep dive into these guys. 20 players is a bit much to have to research and watch film on and edit. So I apologize if this wasn't the most information-packed episode. I just wanted everyone to get an introduction of all the players that we selected. But let me know your thoughts. Who should we have drafted? Who do you want to draft? Did we miss out on anyone other than the first round pick? Is there anything you want to see more of or hear more about? Like and subscribe if you haven't already. It definitely helps the channel. And I'll see you guys on the next episode of the 210 Stockyard.